first thing in our checklist are the visible rings on the hoof walls.
The visible rings on the hoof walls, on the outside of the hoof walls, they're blood pressure. And so the body constantly fluctuates. The coffin bone constantly fluctuates. If you got really thick rings going around this horse, that means that for every ring, that's trauma in the body, that the body's dumping the blood, the waste material out through that foot.
What about if I pick up the foot and I see flat soles?
Once again, if you have flat soles, when the day they're born, you've got concave soles. That's how it is. So when the farther you go on through life and these soles start to drop, that's pressure pushing that sole down. That means the body's trying to get rid of, once again, trying to get rid of the waste material, the blood supply that doesn't work in the body anymore, and it exits out through the foot.
Okay. And staying along that same line, what about the frog? What should I look for in a frog?
And you'll go through these horses, where I've done a lot of horses where you go to the back of the back end of the horse and pick up the foot, and you're going to go, and you got a big, thick, white, fat frog. Frogs only indicate of what's going on inside the body. So if you got big, white, fat frogs in these horses, that's not healthy. That means that that frog just dictates, tells you exactly what's going on in the body. Once this body fixes itself, that frog recedes. It gets rid of it, and we start all over again. And the more healthier they get, the skinnier they get, and they don't get so fat. And you'll find some in the front that are, you can go look at your own horses, where you'll find your front frogs are very thin and low setting. They're not fat. But you go to the back, and they're fat, and they're wide, and they're thick. That means your filter system's compromised. That's where your problem's at.
Okay. What about cracks in the feet?
And cracks, quarter cracks, toe cracks, whatever they're talking about, why are they always splitting at the bottom? Because the pressure is started up high and has worked itself down and it splits it open. So you got to go, once again, you got to go to the interior of the body where this problem's coming from and stop it.
Okay. Okay. If I pick up the foot and I see heels that are contracted, can you tell me a little more what to look for with that?
And heels contracted, like navicular horses, a good example. They call that a disease today. Now it's only a syndrome. All fluid in the horses always exit out in the heel area. That's why you'll find them contracting the very long heels. What they're trying to do, the horse is trying to do, he'll put his weight on the point of his frog and lean forward and get off that pressure, because he can't stand on it. So what you have to do is you got to alleviate that pressure, but those contracted heels are, once again, inside. The pressure's built up in the heels. It means it's wasted material that's trying to exit the body and it can't.
Tell me about thrush.
And thrush is all the, there's a lot of things out today. It's bacteria from the ground and all that. That's not true. It's blood coming out of the system. It'll come out through the cleft of the frog in the heel area. It always exits outside. That's where you always find your thrush at. So what's it doing? The frog is breaking away from the sole, and the fluid underneath that frog is pushing out, coming out, and that's all thrush is. So what you got to do is clean up the interior of this body, and that thrush no longer exists anymore.
Okay. How about abscesses in a hoof?
Abscessing, bruising, that type of deal. Why does bruising always happen on a flat-soled animal? It's because there's pressure. What happens in these horses is that you have a foot like this, and so it's concave. Once the waste material starts to leave the horse's body, it starts to push that sole down in there, and now there's a gap in there, and that's trapped fluid that you got to get out of there. So they'll call that bruising. Well, it's on rocks. Well, if that sole is flat and there's blood in there, and they hit a rock, that blood material is going to seep through that sole area. So that's what that is. It's just blood exiting the body. And once that blood loses its electrical charge and comes out into the oxygen, the air we breathe out here, it turns black. That's all it's doing. It's trying to leave the body.
Okay. Elevated bars on the sole of the hoof?
And the elevated bars are another thing. They're another indicator of what's going on inside. That blood, that pressure in there is pushing those bars down. And that's all a bar is, a frog is, and the soles are. They're telling you what, and you will get some of these horses where in the front they've got really thick bars, but you go to the back and they ain't got nothing going on. Well, that's not a bad thing. You want all these things exiting out to the front. You don't want them exiting out to the back, because if you do have it in the back, that means your filter system is compromised. They're naturally supposed to drop that material out through the front foot. So if you go out there and you shoe your horse, and you trim your horse, and you're taking, like say your hooves, and you're taking off the front hooves, and you're taking off more hoof off the front than you are the back, that's a good thing. it's just like us. Our fingernails grow faster than our toenails do. Their front hooves grow faster than their back feet do. If their back hooves are growing faster than the front, that means your filter system's compromised. And so, and the same thing in people. If your toenails are growing faster than your fingernails, you're pretty sick. You got something going on in your filter systems that you need to take care of it.
Can you tell me about the coffin bones?
Well, yeah, the coffin bone sits on a joint. So it's just like a door. It fluctuates. It fluctuates with, high pressure, low pressure. In the body, the weather can create that. So the coffin bone is constantly moving up and down all the time. That's what its job is. And once again, that coffin bone, you can't see it. It's underneath the frog. So what it's trying to tell you is when you see that coffin bone drop, and you can't see it drop, but you can see it in the sole. You'll see a ring around the sole. Well, what that's telling you is that there's pressure in the heel that's pushing the pressure in the heel is being built up in the heel area, and it's pushing the coffin bone down. That's what it's supposed to do. It's an indicator of what's going on inside the body. So what that's telling you is you got to go to that liver on a coffin bone. It's where the problem's at. It's in the liver. And so what it is, the body is trying to get rid of the waste material, the blood supply that no longer works for the body. So it's trying to exit out through the foot. And another thing with the coffin bone, which is laminitis founder, what this body does is when it gets that sick, it's a form of diabetes. So the body is creating a lot of sugar. That's when you get the hair coat where it's sticky and clammy. And that's what the body's supposed to do. It's supposed to create sugar to get up and get moving. That's all that coffin bone is there to tell you what's going on. We're in the industry, we're addressing the foot when we need to go higher up, fix the compromised filter system, and that will stop.
So how can I, when I pick up my horse's hoof, tell if my coffin bone is starting to rotate or not?
Well, you look for, like say if I pick up a foot, like I'll go to the foot and I'll put my hand on the foot, and if I put my hand on the foot just on the outside like this, I'll go like that. I want to feel cold feet all the way around. We're doing fine. If you go down there and you pick up and you put your hand on the foot and you feel heat, that's high blood pressure. That's going to fluctuate that coffin bone. So that means a horse has high blood pressure. Simply by stimulating the pituitary gland and doing the cauda equina nerve, you can lower this blood pressure in minutes. And then your coffin bone will no longer, it'll quit, it'll stop. So once you get that heat going on in the foot, that means that heat, that high blood pressure, that body's got to get rid of that blood again. So, but don't be concerned about it. That's how these bodies work daily.